What is up, you guys? Welcome. I'm getting sick of my original intro, but if you're new here, my name is Mackenzie. If you're not new, thank you for coming back. It is that time of year, folks. You saw the thumbnail, you saw the title. I'm in the mood to just make mosaics. So this one was a doozy. It took quite a long time. Yes, all mosaics take such a long time, but this one in particular took forever, or at least it felt like it took forever. It's been a little while since I've made a mosaic, but yeah, this is what we're making in today's video. I don't want to show you guys too much of the actual coloring, so there is at least a little bit of a reveal at the end of this video. So yeah, in today's video, we're going to be making a ghosty face style tray glass mosaic. So I think this video is going to be pretty long. I'm going to try my best to edit it down as quick as I can while still giving you guys all of the good information. So yeah, a mosaic. That's what we're doing in today's video. If that sounds like something you're into, let's just get started. Alrighty, so here are the trays we are going to be working with today, you guys. So as you can see, they are already completely done. I picked these up from Michael's. They are a super shiny, glossy, black coffin style tray. I thought these were so cool. I picked up a couple of them because I do hope to get a couple of them done and out to my customers before the season is over. I have high hopes for this project. I think they're gonna come out really cool. I'm super excited. So I made these designs on my G-Pad on Sketchbook, and I was kind of going back and forth for a while if I wanted to go something more simple or if I wanted to do the full cloaked version of that ghost face style design. So I did end up deciding on that, and I made a couple copies so we could fit it right inside here and use it as a stencil. So like I said, this is the design we're going to use. I made a couple copies of it so we could transfer it right inside our coffin. So like I said, these are completely finished already. They're a glossy black. You don't have to do much to them if you don't want to. Here is the one that I have already completely prepped. I did end up sanding both the entirety of the inside and outside, just a light sanding for a couple reasons. So number one, I want the tiles to stick as best as possible, so I wanted to give the inside a light sanding, and I know mosaicing can get pretty messy, so I'm gonna want to give this thing a paint job once I'm finished and probably finish it in a matte black instead of a glossy, but I haven't decided yet. So I did give everything a light sanding inside and out, and as you can see, I did transfer my stencil to the inside already. So like I said, I made a couple copies of our stencil here, and what I did is very simple. Just cut out one piece at a time, laid it into the tray, traced that piece, and went on. So the first piece I cut out was this top piece right here, laid it inside, traced it, then I went in, cut the next piece, laid it inside, traced it, cut the next piece, laid it inside, and traced it, and so on until the entire design was transferred to the inside of my tray here. Easy peasy. So what is going to be tricky about this is the coloring. So a lot of this design is black. So we're gonna have to be pretty strategic as far as laying down our tiles. I want to go with the classic color scheme here. The only thing that's gonna be, I guess, up to you, things like the background. So I want his face to be classic black, and you guys know me, I want a little bit of iridescent in here, so I am going to make his white face a white iridescent glass, but his entire cloak is going to be black and the background gray. So because his entire cloak is going to be black, we're gonna have to be very strategic, like I said, on how we place our tiles. So we want these lines of where his cloak falls to be obvious. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna start in the center just because that's what I know for sure. I know I want these to be black. I want the face to be a white iridescent, and we will work our way outside. So as always, I'm going to be using scrap pieces of glass. So I've got black iridescent here, I've got gray iridescent here, and white iridescent here. So this white iridescent I specifically picked out for his face because we are using the actual iridescent side. For the gray and the black, this is all scrap iridescent glass. So if I decide to use the black side, I can use the regular black side for the iridescent, or if I get down here and decide I want to do some pieces in the black iridescent, I can flip the tile and use the black iridescent. For the gray background, I think I'm definitely going to stick with the back side of the gray, just so it is a solid gray background. I don't want any more iridescent. I think the white iridescent face is going to stand out on its own. So that's why I'm still torn if I'm gonna wanna do any black iridescent anywhere. So if you guys have any questions on actually cutting mosaic tiles or making your own mosaic tiles, I will link other mosaic videos down below where I kind of go more in depth into doing that, but it's very easy. You can just cut your strips of glass as you normally would. Grab yourself some Mosaic tile nippers and just nip away at that glass and make any shaped tiles that you want. I've got all of my tiles cut, all of them ready to go. First thing we gotta do is start in the center right here, his eyes, nose, and mouth. So as always, we are going to be using Weldon Bond for our glue. I'm gonna be using a couple paint brushes so we can just paint very small sections at a time as we're laying down our tiles, because we don't want that glue to start drying before we can get our tiles down. Of course, I'm going to be using my Cricut weeding tools right here because this just helps me pick up and place the tiles a little bit more strategically. And then I've got my crusty old paint palette here that the glue is gonna sit on top of. Let's get some glue out onto our paint palette here, and we're gonna start with our eyes, nose, and mouth, laying down these solid black tiles. Okay guys, we're off. We have started the mosaic, and as you can see, I am just strategically placing all of these tiles. I take the paintbrush and lay a little section of glue down at a time because that glue dries quick and you want it to be fresh when you place your tiles down on top. So I paint just a little section of glue and then strategically place all of my little tiles down. So the entire time I'm doing a mosaic, I have all of my tools handy and nearby. So as you're kind of going through a mosaic, sometimes you'll come along these gaps that you just cannot find a tile that fits correctly for. So I have all of my cutting tools nearby. You can see them coming onto the screen there, the blue handled nippers, and I actually hand cut the exact shape that I'm looking for if I cannot find a tile that fits. Now keep in mind, all of these clips are sped up to almost 10,000% speed. These mosaics take a very, very long time. I'm not kidding you. This one took me days, you guys. So I'm just going little bit by little bit, trying to get these tiles laid down. Okay, so we're just about done with the white iridescent mask portion. Now we're moving on to the black, and this is where we're gonna start being really careful. So I'm laying these tiles very strategically, and I'm putting the flat edge all the way up against that line. So that silver line where I've marked off in my design is where the actual fold of the fabric would be in the ghost face cloak. So I'm making sure that the flat edge of the tiles is sitting up against every single line. So when we go in and do the next section, no matter what color we do it, we're going to do the same thing, flat edge facing that inner line, so we can actually see what would be the fold of the fabric in the cloak itself. I hope that makes sense. We want to make it obvious that there's a separation in that fabric line through the tiles, regardless of what color we end up choosing for the next section. Okay, so as expected, now that I've gotten this big portion of the black done, I think I do want to do the rest of his cloak gray. And I still haven't decided what I'm going to do for this part, if I'm going to go back to black for the background right there. Do I do a little bit of black right there? I don't know. I'm probably going to lay a few more up here just to double check, but it's already pretty late at night. I've been working on this thing literally all day long. It is 9:40, so I want to get a little bit of the gray done before I go to bed, and then we'll pick right back up in the morning. Okay, so this is really when I really started to struggle, you guys. I just could not figure out for the life of me what color I wanted to make this outer section. I wasn't confident that if I did black, the separation in that cloak was going to be obvious enough, so I tried every color under the sun and I just wasn't happy with anything. Alright guys, well, I don't know what to do. I'm stumped. I cannot figure out for the life of me what I want to do for the outer portions of this cloak, and I'm just not liking any of it. I will say this orange pop is kind of cool, but I'm still not 100% sold on it. I don't know. Either way, I think I need to sleep on it. I think that's the problem. I got the both done. I need to sleep on it, and then with fresh eyes in the morning, try them all again, see what I think, and we'll go from there. But I can't look at it anymore. I've got to go to bed, wake up, see what I think tomorrow morning. So, see you then. Okay, so at this point, it is the next morning, and I am still struggling. I just cannot figure it out, both on camera and off. I've tried every single color. I've tried iridescent. I've tried normal. I tried red, maroon, orange, white, black, and the iridescence in all of them, and I just wasn't happy. I didn't like the idea of making his cloak a different color, but again, I still was not confident in the separation that would show up if I did the rest of the cloak a solid black as well. I was just having such a hard time, and then I asked my husband to come in and asked his thoughts. My husband came in and just said, why don't you just leave a much bigger gap in between each to leave the cloak black. So it's ready to go, but I just gotta commit. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. Just do it all black and hope for the best. Okay, so I'm sure at this point you guys could hear the absolute frustration, disappointment in my voice. I was getting so mad, but I'm so glad I asked my husband to come in. If you guys have been watching my channel for a while, I'm sure you guys have heard me say something along the lines of this before. But when you're struggling with a project this hard, sometimes the most easiest, obvious, in-your-face answers are the hardest ones to think of. I was so overthinking this design in this project, the most obvious answer that was in my face the whole time just wouldn't come to me. I just didn't think of it for some reason. It's the most obvious answer. It's a mosaic. Those grout lines are there for a reason. So sometimes all you need is just a second pair of eyes, a second opinion, or just a break from the project. So I'm so glad I asked him to come in. We went with the full black for the whole cloak, and I'm so glad I did. I love how it turned out. Table's a mess, and I am back to my indecisiveness. So now what I'm stumped on is the background. I really, really love the idea of doing this silver mirrored background. But then again, I also love the way that pop of orange looks. It's a nice pop of color. But the mirror looks super, super cool too. Looks very classic. And I think that the mirror may be more marketable for the girls who are like me, who doesn't want this out just for Halloween, who would use this year round. So I love the way the mirror looks, but I'm just concerned with the grout, no matter what type of grout I use. If I use sanded, unsanded, if I used a simple grout, or if I use my regular Jennifer's Mosaics grout, is the mirror going to get scratched to hell when I finally go to grout this thing and start wiping away everything? So I think to just help, I guess, eliminate it is glue a few pieces of the mirror down to something, pretend we're gonna grout it, and see how it acts. If the mirror gets scratched to ever living hell with any type of grout that I try, then I know that that's eliminated and we're just gonna do the orange background. So I'm gonna find something to glue a few pieces of this mirror down to, wait for that to at least just tack dry so we can test it with the grout. All right, I have given this little test piece here plenty of time to dry. So I'm just going to be super rough with it, honestly. And the first grout I'm going to test with it is just this simple grout ready to use. It is a sanded grout. I'm gonna test this first. I'm gonna smush it on there with my fingers like I normally do. Then I'm gonna go over it with a damp paper towel and a dry paper towel like I know I will do on the actual mosaic. And I'm gonna be pretty damn hard on it just for the sake of testing. Okay, well, honestly, I wasn't expecting that. I thought that this was just gonna get scratched to hell, and it really didn't. I pressed super hard right in between these two tiles, and I think I have a little bit of a scratch right here. No, that's wiping off too. Huh, that's not getting scratched, but I think we're gonna be just fine. Yeah, let's do mirror on that background. I think that'll look so cool. Oh my goodness, you guys. Per usual, this mosaic took so long. Finally got all of the tiles glued down, but we've got the most important steps left to do, and that is grouting it and refinishing the outer edges and inside edges here of the actual tray. So I just finished gluing down all the mirrored parts. I am happy with that decision. I think it looks really, really cool as a background. It is 12:11 p.m. October 3rd. So this is day 3 of just laying these tiles down. So we've got to let this glue dry. We're gonna leave it overnight. That way tomorrow morning we can grout this thing. Alrighty, now it's time for the fun part. So we have let our glue completely dry. It's cured. It's been 24 hours. Now it's time for the fun part, putting in the grout. So I'm gonna go in with my classic, my favorite, Jennifer's Mosaics grout. So this is an indoor-outdoor powdered grout. Again, it is sanded, and this is in the color black. I love this grout. This isn't sponsored or anything. You can get this right on Amazon. I'll link it down below. I just love this grout, and I'm familiar familiar with it. I'm so excited, also very nervous, because this is the best part. This is really when your design kind of reveals itself, but you've also got to be careful. You don't want to mess it up. And me, especially having mirror up at the top here, I'm going to have to be extra careful. So I'm just nervous, and I hope that my gaps here in between the folds of the fabric within his cloak is going to be good enough. Let's get some grout in this thing. Alrighty, so we've got a few supplies here. Of course, we've got the grout. I've got plenty of paper towels. I've got all of my grout mixing spatulas. They're all plastic because I don't want to use anything hard on my glass tiles with a sanded grout and risk scratching it even more. This is the little mixing bowl. It's a glass mixing bowl that I like to use for my grout. I like to mix it in small batches. Then over here, I've got clean water. I've got a sponge and then those disposable craft sponges, and we'll use those after the grout is set and we're starting to wipe it away. If you've never used Jennifer's Mosaics, I'll just give you a quick run through. Pour grout into a mixing bowl, adding a small amount of water at a time. You mix it until it's thick and smooth. I'll show you exactly what that looks like. The approximate ratio is 3 parts grout to 1 part water. You're supposed to wear a disposable glove because it will kind of stain your hands, but I like to use my hands so I can feel it kind of pushing into the tile. So wearing a disposable glove, apply the grout. Wait about 15-20 minutes for the grout to set. Brush away excess grout using a scrubby or a soft brush, and it is very important to remove the grout from the surface of the mosaic before it's completely dry. Once it's dry, buff the surface and never pour grout down a drain. Then of course, once our grout is dry, we're gonna go in and seal it, but we can worry about that later. We've got all of my supplies here. We're ready, you guys. We can get this thing out of the way and start mixing up this grout. All right, I'm pretty happy with that consistency. I'm gonna grab my thicker spatula here, and I'm gonna start at the bottom because again, I am nervous about the mirror. So I'm gonna work my way from the bottom to the top. Okay guys, pretty straightforward pushing the grout into the tiles here as far as following the directions. I'm just using a mixture of these spatulas and my hands to make sure that the grout is getting in every single groove of these tiles and on the edges. I'm also trying to keep it pretty clean at the same time. Now we gotta let it set. Okay, it's been about 15-20 minutes, so that means we can kind of start to work off the excess grout that's on the surface of our mosaic. So the first thing I'm gonna do is go in very lightly with a dry paper towel. This is just what I like to do to pick up the bulk of that extra grout before I start going in with anything damp and adding any more moisture into the grout. Yes, I hate that word, but sometimes you gotta just use it. Okay, so now comes the most tedious part, but also the most exciting part of your mosaic, and that's removing all of the grout off of the surface. So as you can see here, I am going back and forth a ridiculous amount of times between dry sponges, dry paper towels, damp paper towels, over and over and over again, just little bit at a time, trying to get the most amount of grout off of the tiles as we can, while also introducing the least amount of moisture into the tiles or grout that we can. So I'm also cleaning up the inside edges of the tray itself because I'm starting to think now that I'm actually not going to want to paint it and just finish it. All right, guys, I'm calling it there. We gotta stop fussing with it. I think that's as clean as we're getting it for tonight. If we really want to, we can go back in with it once this grout is completely dry. And because it's glass, we should be able to clean even more off of the surface if we really want to once this grout is completely dry. But I think I'm calling it for tonight. We gotta leave this bad boy alone. It looks so cool already. I can't wait to see it when it's totally dry and the grout is sealed and see it in the daylight. I'm really, really happy with it. So we're gonna let this grout completely dry overnight, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for the finishing touches of this mosaic. Okay, we're almost done, you guys. The grout is dry. Now we've got to seal it. So I'm just gonna quickly go over all of the grout lines with this grout sealer. I will say I don't love just spraying it on and then wiping it off the surface because I do feel like it's really difficult to get the haze that it leaves off of black tiles in particular. So I'm just gonna spray some in a little glass, and I'm gonna go over all of these little grout lines with this paintbrush by hand. Okay, grout sealer is on. We're almost done, you guys. The last thing I gotta do is give this thing a quick paint job and seal it. And I might even I don't know. I can't tell if I want to just sand it down a little bit more, especially the edges, to make it look aged and then matte clear coat it. I don't know. Well, either way, we gotta let that grout sealer dry. So while we're doing that, let me take a sander to it and see if I want to sand it and seal it or if I want to paint it and seal it. Okay, so like I said, I'm going over the entire surface again, sanding everything, really focusing on those sharp edges, letting that lighter wood show through. Then I'm going to go through and clean everything with a damp cloth because I know now I do want to just seal it and I don't want to paint it. All right, so very last step here is going to be covering the surface here. So I'm going to need to make a paper and tape kind of cover to cover all of our tiles. That way we can safely clear coat the top of this. Again, I'm going to be using my regular spray paint. You guys have seen me do that a million times, so I won't show you the process. But you guys already know I'm going to be using Krylon matte finish spray paint. But we've got to cover up the tiles first to keep them nice and safe while we spray. I'm going to sign the back of it and then we'll clear coat it. Okay, so using just some simple construction paper and the stencil that I made to originally make this design, I am just going in and making a few layers deep cover to just sit over these tiles. And I want it to be a couple layers of construction paper because we really don't want that matte spray paint to get through on any of the tiles. It will wreck it. All right, so we've made our little cover a couple layers deep because we really don't want that matte finish spray paint to seep through. So the last thing I'm gonna do here is put my little signature in the year. Now, we're ready to spray paint. So I'm gonna take this thing outside and give it a nice even coat of this Krylon matte finish spray paint. Again, you guys, if you're ever gonna use this, just make sure you shake it well, shake it very, very well, and shake it the entire time you're using it. Every time you do a couple of sprays, shake it a little more, or your coat's not really gonna have an even consistency. I'm gonna go spray paint this, let this dry. We'll come back and take a look at our finally finished mosaic. Alrighty guys, that's it. That is gonna be it for today's video. Like I said, I am super happy with this mosaic. I didn't anticipate it taking as long as it did, but I think it was well worth it. Let me turn these filming lights down, because with those filming lights on, it looks, even now, it still looks so different than what it actually looks like in person. But my phone camera definitely does it a little bit more justice, so hopefully you guys enjoyed those shots of the mosaic. But yeah, that's it for today's video, guys. As always, if you have any questions, leave them down below. I really try my best to get back to every single comment I see. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video if you did, comment down below and let me know what do you want to see next, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!